I was in the building last night for the Portland Trailblazers taking on the Basketball Bundesliga basketball team. That's the BBL.
I did not know that the Blazers got a BBL.
That's a different BBL.
German BBL.
I didn't know that there were German BBLs.
So, I mean, look, they're more expensive. Europe's always more expensive. Unless you're going to Turkey, get the hair job.
Just,
Turkey's where you go to get the hair job. It's where it works.
Nothing's wrong with being bald. There's nothing wrong with it.
There is.
Like what, sir?
You're hairless.
Yeah, but that's
what was no longer an option.
Mm.
Speaking of hair,
you could take the pill.
Toumani Camara took out his braids last night, had a wonderful free-flowing flow. Just fantastic stuff. I asked him about it after the game, and he said, I'm going to switch it up. He's going to put the braids in, take them out, have some fun with it. His hair is as long as mine right now, but his is lusciously curly. I'm violently jealous. But the Portland Trailblazers did take on a team from the Basketball Bundesliga last night. A team featuring two potential lottery picks in the 2025 draft, and Noah Sengwe and Ben Saroff, both of whom impressed last night. I won't regale everybody with that. I'll have that on the Jack Ramsey's Patreon. Actually, I'll do the podcast tonight and probably mention them a little bit more in depth, but I think that's a little too far above the pale. What are we, 9 months away from the NBA lottery? So, but we'll get there. But the Portland Trailblazers did play last night. Anthony Simons did not play. Jeremy Grant did not play. Shaedon Sharpe did not play. Robert Williams III, Matisse Thybulle. I believe that's everyone. The things to take away from preseason so far and what we have seen out of this team and kind of what to expect going forward. Number one, I think, is the biggest story out of preseason is that Toumani Camara has leveled up in that he is looking like not only a solid role player, but he looks like he could potentially be a very high-level role player on a team that matters. What that means to the Portland Trailblazers is that they may have found a nice little gem in the deal that ultimately sent Damian Lillard to the Milwaukee Bucks last season. Two, has physically matured. He understands where he needs to be and what he needs to do better. His ability to make decisions quicker while not deviating outside of what the expectations are for him too often are pretty huge. Last night he had some turnovers. Again, against a lesser team, that's where in the preseason, that's where you want to kind of try some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But his shot looks incredibly comfortable. Defensively, his intensity, his willingness to compete, his ability to cover basically 1 through 4, to pick up full court, to rebound, to be a cutter, to do the dirty work stuff, to work off the ball. It's all kind of leveled up. And that's a big thing for Portland. And it's to the point where with injuries currently standing, as I tweeted this out last night, if Shaedon Sharpe is going to be out to start the season, Toumani Camara should start. The starting lineup should be Anthony Simons, Toumani Camara, Denny Avdia, Jeremy Grant, DeAndre Ayton. That's how solid 2 has been.
Is that more so because of how he plays, or is it also because of his fit with that group, or is it somewhere in between?
It's both, because Scoot and Ant just don't really mesh well together because Scoot needs the ball so much. He has not developed the ability to play off the ball. And so if you've got Anthony Simons on the floor at the same time in the starting group, I'm not saying they can't play together, just starting the game, you want to try to balance things out, because what Anthony does, he is their best offensive player. There's no ifs, ands, buts about it. It's the way he bends defenses. That's what enables other guys to have advantages.
Mm-hmm.
Now, is he able to do that without the ball? Yes. But
it's not as grand.
Particularly if Scoot Henderson's on the floor, because if now all of a sudden if Scoot has the ball and it's a drive and kick and it's kick out to Ant, Scoot's guy isn't going to go, I need to make sure I stay tight to Scoot.
Because of his shooting woes he's had so far. That makes sense.
And he's just got to figure some stuff out. So they're just going to preload to Anthony, and the advantage gain disappears. With 2, it's not that he's Ray Allen in the corner on the weak side. It's that he's probably a 36.5, 37, probably average to above average 3-point shooter.
Okay.
In that he has the ability to attack closeouts. And if you gain an advantage and you kick it out to him, you are, at this point, I think you trust that he's probably going to take and make the right decision.
Mm-hmm.
And that's taking and making the right decisions is the next step in process and growth for this franchise, for their young players.
Yeah.
And so I think they need to, as of right now, and this doesn't say it's like set in stone that Toumani Camara starts forever. Number one, when Shaedon comes back, it should be his spot. If he continues to show what I heard was coming out of this summer.
Okay.
But Scoot could also advance. And you've already seen Scoot Henderson through the preseason. In Seattle, Scoot Henderson was awful. Full stop. Awful. The decision making, the shot attempts. I mean, he shot 4-16. The turnovers were underwater. He looked overmatched. He looked like he was attacking without a plan. Wasn't getting back defensively. It was tough.
So then I want to ask about that, because I went to a couple games at the end of the year and I watched, and I want, as a Blazer fan, obviously, I want Scoot to be what he was hyped up to be. It seems like maybe the hype might have been a little bit off, or at least off at the start. He wasn't going to hit the ground running as much as people might have wanted. It felt like at the end of the year, he had turned a corner where he was taking better shots. His shot selection was better suited for him, and he was finishing a lot of those. It felt like he was having higher assist games. It felt like he was putting his teammates in positions to score. It felt like he was driving with a plan, and he had a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C, all depending on what the defense did. Why is there a step back? Is it just a bad game where the rookie stuff come back up and it's going to take him, a couple weeks, but eventually that'll be completely out of his game? Or was he just going up against weaker competition at the end of the year, so he looked like he had
more
made the
so
step?
the latter? But the big part of it is that growth isn't linear. You have the progression, regression, and then you 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 1 step forward, 2 steps back, and you get gains, but you take losses along the way. That's the big thing for me. And it's not as bad as Scoot was on Friday. He looked better on Sunday against the Kings. Now, it took him a little while to kind of get going, and most of the damage that he did was in the second quarter in about a 5-minute stretch.
Okay.
And the Kings, my God, they might as well have just
back to the Queens.
Oh my goodness! I mean, the level of sloppiness that they played with was. I mean, their own announcer was calling it disgusting. It was.
That's beautiful. We should have more announcers.
Tremendous stuff, and he did it with an NPR radio voice. That was the best part about it. But last night, Scoot ended up having a great stat line. He finished on with a 9 of 14. I think it was 6 assists. But what was interesting is I asked folks in the organization if Scoot was sick at halftime.
Yeah.
Because the effort, the intensity, and the energy were not there in the first half. It took, I think it was the 2 or 3 minutes to go in the second quarter, he finally started to show something. And you're playing, look, I get it. You're not playing an NBA opponent.
Right.
And I don't care about the box score stuff as much as like, let me see what you're putting on tape.
Mm-hmm.
To me, Scoot is at a place in his development where he is behind the 8 ball a little bit because of where he was drafted. And there is expectations that come with draft slotting, but there's also bonuses and things of that nature. You get extra chances and opportunities because of draft slotting. That's just the nature of the beast. It's always going to be. But you can't, if you're the guy who needs to focus on development, your energy, your intensity, your give a damn, that can't ever be questioned. And that's been questioned a couple times this year for Scoot already. And look, it's the preseason. It doesn't mean it can't change. But it's something that's lingering in the back of my head of like, look, man, you've got to make some advances. You don't have to turn into an all-star, but you need to make advances. And the box that should be automatically ticked of like, hey, you're 19, 20 years old. You should bring the juice every night. Should not be something I'm going, where is he at? And I think that's my biggest question about him is that, and I think that's been the difference between him and Toumani in the preseason is that two's intensity, he's ready.
He's always going.
The regular season is here. You don't ever question where he's at mentally, physically, emotionally. He's ready to go. And I think that, and part of it is that 2 is older, even though they've only been in the league the same amount of time.
Right.
2's physically, mentally,
4
emotionally,
years of college.
More mature. And I think there's 2 understands that. And I think that's what you're looking at. And so let Scoot come off the bench. Let him play with kind of a mixed group. Let him be on the ball a little bit more. Let him have a little bit more opportunity in that regard. We'll see them. I think we're going to get more of a dress rehearsal tomorrow night.
Okay.
As the Blazers have their first home NBA preseason game against an NBA opponent.
Not a BBL.
No BBLs in the building. Well, there'll be some BBLs in the building.
No, someone's got to go on a date after, right?
I mean, yeah. But yeah, it's going to be really interesting. And then Donovan Clingan, he's holding steady. Donovan Clingan stock watch. He's very big. He did block a shot last night without
7'2".
jumping.
That's awesome.
He was matched up against a big on the on Ohm's roster who I wanted to see how big he was listed as. I was like, let me take a look. He was listed as 7 foot tall.
He was not.
He's 7 foot tall. Donovan Clingan is 7'6", because they saw them next to each other and he just dwarfed him.
That's
dwarfed him. And to be fair to Donovan, that has happened multiple times this year against guys that are huge. Ivica Zubac for the Clippers, Alex Len for the Kings. Like these guys that are like 7'1" plus, big barrel chested, freaky thick legged humans that you're just
Strong
like,
guys.
And you go, oh, Donovan's significantly bigger than those guys. And that's going to be the fun game this year. It's a bummer that Zach Edey exists in the sense of like,
he's bigger
because he's so much bigger, because he's legitimately 7'5". That you just play the game of like, look, here's Zach Edey next to this, because you could play with Donovan Clingan because he's so big.
I am excited, and I don't know how much this will really happen, but with Scoot coming off the bench, I'm excited to see how those two interact with each other and how they play together and how the Blazers use them. Because to me, whether Scoot's been disappointing or not, he's still at this point has to be thought of as a piece, or really a major piece moving forward with what you want this franchise to be. I feel like Clingan has to be in that same boat of what you think about them moving forward, because they are your 2 most recent draft picks, right? Or at least your 2 most recent first round draft picks. I am excited as a Blazer fan to see how they play together. I don't want to see a lot of wins, right? You need to do everything that you can do.
I will say this right now. It is not something you have to worry about.
Good. I'm not worried about it then, but what I am worried about is how do they look together and do they improve as the season goes on? A guy like Toumani, I want to see him with Scoot as well. They're along the same age frame. How do they work well together? Because all the things that you've said about Toumani and him being, not saying that he's a possible trade piece, but there might be teams that are interested, especially at the deadline. I look at his age. I don't want that guy gone.
No, he's 24 years old.
I want him around. There are some guys where, if you get the right amount, the right return for Grant.
Sure.
Yeah, of course. Right. Toumani, that's a guy that I want to see him around. And so I want to see how he builds and how he reacts with Shaedon, with Clingan, with Scoot.
No, it's going to be really interesting. Last night, I think you got to see a little bit of the play faster, play in the open court. Denny Avdia threw 6 or 7 different lobs in the first half alone.
Excited to see Denny.
Yeah,
Can't wait to see Denny.
Denny was super fun last night, and I'm interested to see how he looks against I know how he looks against NBA competition, but in the vein of like how he's able to set guys up against NBA competition tomorrow night. So we'll dive into that some more coming back next week as the NBA season is less than a week away. It's here, ladies and gentlemen. No, that doesn't start during Christmas. Not on this show. It starts opening night. Man. You will not stop me. No, it's not happening. Not happening.
But what about the hot action that'll be on at the same time?
Don't care. Basketball.